Hello dear friends, today I thought we'd have some fun. We'll make some belly bands, and I'm working on a gardening theme so that I can use this in a journal that I'm wanting to make in the not too distant future. So I've gathered together some supplies. I have some recycled card that came from round knitting balls, which I actually thought at the time, wow, those look like belly bands waiting to happen. Then I have some book pages, and onto the book pages I have used Mod Podge and gel medium to glue down napkins. And for those of you that have worked with napkins before, you'll know that they've got 2 or 3 ply, and you need to separate those. So the cherry here will be the first layer that's got the solid image. I also glue down the second and third layers where you get just a shadow of color coming through, and I find that those are very useful when we're doing junk journals. And then I also have a piece of wrapping paper that has lovely garden images on, and I've actually really enjoyed tearing these out because there's some lovely wording on there, and there are also some lovely images. I also have a little black stamp pad, just a very small one. This is a cork, and I glued onto this a metal button, so I plan to use that in my work today. And then I've also got another button. This one's slightly rounded, but it does give lovely marks, so I'm playing around with that too. And then this is one of those little Indian woodblock stamps. I love these, and if you've ever seen these guys carving out the Indian woodblocks, they're just amazing because it's so small. And then I have a few little sort of alphabet stamps just for fun. So what we're going to need to do is just have a nice glue stick, and we're going to work with our belly bands, and off we go. So the first thing I want to say to you is that when you are doing this kind of work, you need to make sure that you're not combining too many different elements. By that I mean is, if you're going to work with ranges of pictures, try and stick within a theme, especially if it's on a smaller surface like a belly band, and then also try and not have too many different color values. By that I mean is, like, don't take something like this little picture, which is a watercolor picture, and try and mix it with something that is perhaps from a magazine, because the colors are different, and the magazine pictures got sharper images, so it doesn't always gel. Try and stick with the same sort of style. So the first thing that you'll see that I've done on this particular belly band is that I've just taken some of my book page, and this is was the edging of a napkin that I'd worked with that I was going to throw away, and I thought, stick it down on the book page. So I've done that, and then I also had introduced one other thing excuse me, which I hadn't mentioned previously, and that was that I had this lovely packet that I got a bar of soap in, and I loved the colors of these and the greens, which I thought would go nicely with the watercolor image. And when I show you the belly bands I've already made, you'll see that they work really well. So the first thing that I'm going to do now is I'm going to just choose some background image, and I'm going to take this one that has a napkin glued onto it, but it's got a kind of crackled effect. I thought, let's try that, that will be rather fun. So I like to put my glue on so that I don't get too messy. I'll just quickly smear this on. Glue sticks I find are really good for this. You could work with gel medium, but I just find the glue sticks go really, really quickly. And I'm not going to cover up the brown of the band from the wool completely, because I just feel that I'd like some of that to show through. I'm going to introduce some yellow into this, and I'm tearing off a piece of the yellow that I had from the serviette that I glued onto the book page, simply because I've used it in the other belly bands, and I find it really does lift the colors up nicely. So I'll just glue this down, and you can see the gluing down is fairly random. I might just introduce another piece of yellow just to give it a bit of a lift. Let's pop that one there. And then the secret to having a nice finished look is to layer things. So at this particular stage, I'm going to take my little black ink pad, and I'm going to take my little button that I've glued onto a white cork, and I'm going to just roll it around in the ink a little bit. I'm not trying to get this whole image down completely because it's going to be really difficult because it's curved, but I'm just kind of going to roll it around, and it really just serves to make it a little bit more grungy on the actual surface. And also by layering on top of something, you find that you're linking things together. So I'm just creating marks. I'm not trying to do any patterns with this one per se. I'm going to set that aside now. Now I'm going to take this lovely button that I had glued onto another wine cork, and I'm going to ink this up. I love playing with found things because you never quite know how they're going to turn out. And now when I show you this, you'll see where the black lines are, where we should actually have our image. So let's have a bash with this. You need to press down and maybe rock a little bit. Interesting, this one hasn't actually printed as well as I hoped. So sometimes when you have a found image, some of these areas are a little bit recessed. So I'm just going to leave that one for now, and I'm going to pick up my little wood block, which I know works really nicely. Ink that one up. You'll always be able to see the ink because it'll be shiny. And then I'm just going to put some marks on with this right now, just to break up the solid surfaces that I have already placed. Okay, so we'll come back to the ink shortly, but for now we're going to continue layering this up. And I think the next thing that I'd like to do is just to introduce something. Oh, here we go. Here's a nice picture. We're going to introduce the strawberry. So I'm tearing away some of the book page because obviously this image is slightly wider than the belly band I'm working on. I like the torn edges because they're really soft when you come to assemble it. There we go. Maybe just a little bit of this white off here. Again, just going to glue this up nicely. And I must say I do enjoy having some of my elements for a junk journal pre-made, because then when I come to actually make the journal itself, it's really exciting because it can go more quickly. Right, so I'm going to just overlap some of these images, gluing them down like that. And then I love this bright green that's here, so I think I'm going to include that somewhere. And you've just got to just trust your instinct. You know, for those of you that aren't confident when you are working with these collage projects, you've just got to say, I'm going to play, I'm going to have fun, and just let it be. So the more your images overlap, the more interesting your work is going to become. So now I think I'm going to take a nice big bold image. I've got this lovely one that I've torn out, a basket for small garden tools, and I think I'm going to use that because that should sit nicely in the middle. And it's got white in it, so white is a very nice light color. It's going to lift up the tonal value of the whole belly band, and I think it's just going to be a fun element. I love it on the green here, and I love it next to the strawberries. So there we go. Let's do that. And I think I had a saying. Yeah. Let me find if I've got a whole piece here of a nice saying. Be up with the lark. No, that's going to, no, that'll cut the image off there, so I'm not going to use that. But here's part of the wording. Be up with the lark and go to bed. No, I think we're going to just take be up with the lark. The whole long sentence just didn't work on this belly band. Looking at the weight of where the design is, there's quite a lot on this side, so I think I'm going to put the wording over here, adding some light to it. And let's see what else we can put in here. I have a lovely ball of string. I think that could be quite fun, just as a nice tonal value. It's got a bit of yellow in just to lift the design. I like that. That's looking good. And at the end of a hard day in the garden, a good cup of tea I think is always a nice way to round the day off. So let's include that. Oh, getting a bit sticky here. How's your week been? Have you been busy and productive with all your crafting projects, or have you just been busy with work and chores? I do hope you had some time to play, because it's always important. Right, at this particular stage I come back in with my ink because I don't want everything to be on the surface, so I'm going to just lightly ink the edge, and I do that by just rubbing the side of my ink pad up against the edge of the belly band. It is a black ink pad which ties in with the colour of the printed stuff that I've got here, all the wording and things, but I don't want it to overshadow the design. So I'm just going very softly. You could use a brown, you could use a little green, it's entirely up to you, depends what you've got. Just use what you've got. You don't have to use anything expensive, and you don't have to go out and buy anything. Right, So you'll see that by inking it, it kind of draws the whole design together. It's a bit like having one of those mount boards when you do picture framing. That often just draws everything together. I have a little corner here where I think I'm going to just put a little bit of the yellow, like this. And then I'm going to come back in with my stamps, because you'll see some areas are very white, and I'm just going to lightly go over those just to try and unify the design. You'll find often if you're doing painting things that the things that you put on last tend to be the one where your eye is drawn, and you can see here very clearly that by the time I'm actually just putting the stamp over this, it's linking it to what lies below. So I'll just do a little bit more on that. And I'll hold this up closely. You will see how nicely that just ties the design together. It all looks as though it's part of it, because that faint little stamping line goes through everything. Then I have a nice letter G, and I think I'm going to just stamp, I think one of these will be enough, because it's quite a bold image, like that. Yeah, that just fills that corner up nicely. And obviously as this gets used, you're going to find that the ink will get less and less. What I often do is that if I have a blank belly band like this lying around, I'll put this down and just use the ink on one of these, because then the next time I want to do something, I've actually got a little bit of my background already there. So I think for today's belly band, I'm going to just leave this one as is, but I'll show you the other ones that I've worked with. Just give me a second to move this stuff out the way. There we go. So we have a few pictures. There we go. We've got a weekly planner one, which is really nice, because that actually could be part of your cover page. I've included some that have got leaves here and some little gardening elements. That's another one with a little basket. And then we've got one with a garden fork. I really like that one. That's rather fun. Let's put this one over here. And then I've got more with flowers and flower pots. And some that have included shears and strawberries. So quite a nice collection of different belly bands. I'm very happy with what I've made. And as I said to you, I've really only been using things that I had. The knitting bands, which were the recycled card, a couple of book pages with some napkins, a sheet of wrapping paper, and a few little stamps. And I mean, you could even make a stamp if you wish. So I hope that this, sorry, let me just adjust this so you can see better. I hope that this has inspired you, and I hope that you will get on and make some belly bands, and I'd love to hear from you. So you can leave me a comment, or if you've enjoyed this and you want to see some of the other videos I've done, please subscribe to my channel. Thanks for being with me today. Bye.